Well, I'm very excited to introduce Sujean Lee. Last night, we all enjoyed a wonderful social gathering from Chobani, but today we're going to hear about the work they're doing. And Sujean oversees the philanthropy and corporate affairs at Chobani. She also serves as president of the Chobani Foundation. And in this role, she manages corporate sustainability, government affairs, community engagement, and executive communications for the founder and CEO. Prior to Chobani, Sujean was Chief Business Development Officer at BioDigital, which is a health technology company in New York. And she's also worked in the federal government, serving as Assistant Staff Secretary in the West Wing, and as a Special Assistant to the Attorney General. So please welcome Sujean Lee.
We make products. You make yogurt, somebody makes staples, somebody makes something else. But how you make it is so important. It makes the difference. It's in our DNA that we're not just gonna make a yogurt, we're gonna make it right. What's your ingredients? How do you treat your people? How do you treat your community? What's your vision? Every act on this journey has to be nothing but good. We're not saying we're perfect, but our mindset is in the right place. We need to challenge the food manufacturers to make things right. How you make it, it matters. Take the preservatives out. Take the colors out. A cup of yogurt might not change the world, but how we make them, it might.
Hello, thank you for being here.
Hi, everyone.
So, Chobani's tagline is "How Matters," and in a video on your site, very similar to this one, your CEO, who we just saw, says that we are not going to just make yogurt, we're going to make it right. Can you talk about what that means and why we as consumers should care?
Yeah, absolutely. So at Chobani, I think we have a core belief that really drives everything that we do, and it's that people deserve better food. And when we think about how to define better food, we define it with a few key words, and that's that food should be delicious, it should be nutritious, and it should be accessible, all while being made with only natural ingredients. And so when we thought about what could really capture all of those values and beliefs, we came up with this mantra called "How Matters." And for us, that really embodies that entire mission. And it's that how we make food matters, what ingredients go into the products that we sell to families and young people and everyone across the country. And it actually extends to how we think about doing business, because it starts from how we make a cup of yogurt, and it expands into how we run a business and how our factories operate in the communities where they exist, and how we treat our employees and how we give back to the community. So for us, How Matters really is the philosophy, it's the mantra that really drives everything we do.
So, how does this commitment to sort of natural and delicious and local, how does it impact the people who are making these products, whether it's your employees or your farmers you're getting things from and their communities?
Yeah, so it's actually a really remarkable and almost crazy story of the way that Chobani was started. Our founder and CEO, Hamdi Ulukaya, was an immigrant from Turkey. He ended up in a tiny, tiny rural town in central New York called New Berlin. And at that time, it's a beautiful, beautiful community. Rolling hills, spotted with farmland and cows, grazing, just green pastures. He ended up there, and at that time, he learned that there had been a factory, a craft plant that had been shut down. And in that community, in that very rural community, that factory had been really the lifeblood of the region. And its being shut down was a huge blow to the economy. And when he learned that this plant was for sale, he was struck by just this instinct and this inspiration to try to build a company. So he ended up purchasing that plant with the help of a government loan, and that is what became the headquarters and the factory where Chobani is produced. And in doing that, in building the company in this really small rural town, created thousands of jobs, and has really helped to shore up, I think, the economic development of that region in a major way. And now it's, I think, really thriving. And what we do at Chobani is that we source our milk locally with hundreds of local farmers, and we source milk that comes from cows that haven't been treated with growth hormone. And so it's been just this growth collaboratively, company and community, in central New York. And that also actually happened when he built a second factory in Twin Falls, Idaho from scratch. He built the world's largest yogurt factory in a town called Twin Falls, which is also quite rural. And it's just now become actually a magnet for other major companies that are opening up manufacturing facilities there.
So in addition to this good that you're doing through your actual business, Chobani gives 10% of its, I understand, gives 10% of its profit to charity. And so how does the company, and how do you see this balance between traditional philanthropy and sort of a more capitalist approach to doing good?
Honestly, I joined Chobani because I was so struck by the fact that the desire to make a positive impact is deeply embedded in the DNA of the company. And that, to me, was something that I personally had never experienced before in interacting with a large business. And when I saw that Chobani was this company that does that, I was immediately drawn to it. And I think that that is really something that sets it apart from a lot of other big businesses out there. And so, like the How Matters manifesto touches on, it starts from the way that we make our products. And it really expands out into everything that we do, from how we build our manufacturing facilities and keeping in mind not harming the environment but leaving it better off, and how we interact in the hometowns where we have physical spaces, and then above and beyond that, above and beyond what the company does to be a impactful corporate citizen, is that we also have this foundation that basically executes this amazing pledge that Hamdi made when he first started Chobani, which is to give 10% of profits to charity. So in addition to the way that the company itself operates, we've made this commitment to distribute grants to really passionate organizations all around the world that are doing good in their own communities. And right now we are transitioning to a really focused approach of looking at organizations that are doing great work in two areas. The first is nutrition, so trying to do more to educate more young people about what it means to eat healthy, and why it's important to understand where your food comes from. And then secondly, trying to support and encourage more entrepreneurship all across the country, not just in these big cities, but also going to smaller towns where entrepreneurship is more of a distant, kind of intangible idea, and showing them that, if Hamdi can do it, and he was this immigrant who had grown up in a rural part of Eastern Turkey and came here with just a dream, then, people all over this country can do it too.
So why is it important to those kids in school for them to know where their food's coming from?
I think that it's something that we believe is just a basic human right. People should have access to food that's delicious and good for you. And I think right now, the way that big food has evolved in this country was starting to go in a direction that frankly we think is unacceptable, to pump in, artificial ingredients and preservatives and flavorings and colorings and all of that into a food and calling that, what's accessible at the supermarket, I think is a real tragedy. And we see this now with all of the health concerns that faces the country with childhood obesity. And so trying to educate students about what it means to actually have food that's simple and natural, but also tastes really good and is like fun and exciting is something that I think is just a really basic human right that everyone should have access to.
We have an interesting question coming in from social, which is, how does Chobani define local?
For us, local is a term that means that we want to grow together with the community in which we have a presence. So for us, when we think about our headquarters in New Berlin, we work with farmers who surround our headquarters, our factory that we built there to source milk. And in turn, we also give back to the community in the sense that we built a Little League stadium just down the street from our plant. We helped build a community center walking distance from our factory. And so everything from sourcing local milk through to engaging with the families and the youth and all of the local organizations there. We take that same approach in Twin Falls and in New York City, where we have offices as well.
So another question we have coming in here is, do your employees also contribute to your efforts or have the ability to give? So I guess this means sort of to the specifically the philanthropic efforts.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry, go ahead.
I think that one of the main ways that it's just core to what we do is that we are able to attract talent that, and I think in particular millennials, that these themes resonate with. So people come to Chobani understanding that we're trying to make products the right way and that we care about giving back to the community through volunteer efforts and through community projects and grant making and through the foundation. So once they join the company, it's definitely a collective process where we gather feedback and input from throughout the company to make these decisions of how we're gonna contribute. So we do regular volunteerism and corporate team building events that enable us to get out there, whether it's the Special Olympics or local, athletic events, or even partnering with local schools where we send employees to help cook with the kids, where we're actually piloting a Chobani Creations program where we're trying to teach them that you don't have to reach for, say potato chips. You can have healthier snacks that are still, that still leave you energetic. So yeah, it's been great to see how engaged all of the employees are in building this part of the company together.
So I think it's anecdotally clear to sort of anyone who grocery shops or goes to restaurants that there's something of a natural food movement going on. And to what extent do you think that is coming from this sort of millennial generation, from young people?
Yeah. Well, honestly, if you ask my parents, it's their data point that seems to say that it's not just millennials because they love our stuff. But I mean, I think that the conversation, thankfully, is really being driven by millennials, because I think that this is like one of the greatest things about millennials is that they're fearless. The Case Foundation is really aware of that fearlessness, and they celebrate that. And I think that millennials don't have that sort of hesitation to express the importance of what really matters. And it's spot on that food should be natural. And so I think that millennials have really become the vocal champions of it. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that means that it's a priority that only applies to millennials. I think, even if we look at our consumers, one of the things that we are very fortunate about is that it appeals to a very mass audience. So whether it's moms or parents themselves who start to fall in love with the product after they've been feeding it to their kids, or just professionals, farmers, all across age, gender, geography. I think that natural food is something that should and is now becoming more of a universal priority. Another
question that's really blowing up here is, how much skepticism does Chobani face? How does it try to prove is all caps, to a cynical America that it's living up to its ideals?
That's a great question. I think that no one is perfect, and I don't think that we ever claim that we are. I think that Chobani still has a lot that it can do to grow and improve, and we realize that every day. But I think that what makes us really excited about, what makes me really excited about being a part of the company is that I think something that we are unwavering on is that purpose, is that commitment to this belief that people deserve better food, and we are a company that's trying to deliver that in the right way. And I think that we're always striving to make better products, to make more innovative products, and we're trying to be more transparent about things like supply chain and our environmental stance and all of that. And even on the philanthropy side, we're always striving to be more organized and more structured and disciplined and focused. But I think what I'm really proud of is really the core unwavering passion and commitment to those values.
It seems that often millennials and a lot of people are willing to pay a premium for a natural product and a product that they morally believe in. Is that what Chobani is seeing, or do you have to work to make sure you're at similar price points to products that might not be as well made?
Yeah, I think that is actually one of the things that that motivated Hamdi, our founder, to start the company. And it's that, when he came to the States, he grew up in Turkey where his mom milked cows, added cultures, and that was yogurt. And when he first moved to the States, he would go to the supermarket and was so confused by the fact that the only yogurt that was available was the stuff that was really sweet and runny and had all these artificial ingredients on the label. And the only alternative instead of that, which was the mainstream yogurt product, was to go find his way to some specialty store where something like strained yogurt would be a very gourmet luxury food. And that was just confusing to him. And so one of the main tenets of starting Chobani was that it would make products that were delicious and nutritious, but also accessible. So I think for us, today millennials are definitely communicating with their wallet, and they support brands and causes and companies that resonate with their values. So hopefully they're supporting Chobani because of that. But for us, in terms of is Chobani a luxury food? It's the opposite of that. And I think that's actually one of the main things that's differentiated us as a food company, that we make food that's mass accessible. So you can go to Walmart, you can go to Costco and get our products, just like you can go to the bodega in Manhattan and get our products. And yet we haven't compromised on things that we think are just basic attributes that we wouldn't want to sacrifice on.
So you mentioned that one of the giving goals is to support entrepreneurship among young people, and we have a question here asking to elaborate on that a bit. And I guess what I would add to that question is what a young entrepreneur can learn from the story of Chobani and this idea of filling a need that your founder saw.
Yeah, I think that for us, entrepreneurship is a path to do something that is like a fire in your belly that you just can't get out of your system because it means so much to you. And seeing Hamdi's personal story, you can build things and create value that creates thousands of jobs and has, now billions of dollars in revenue by having the confidence to pursue that fire and not letting anyone tell you that you can't. When he started the company and was going to buy that initial craft plant, he was, not in a place where he could afford it. And he tells a story where he called his lawyer and was like, I think I want to buy this plant. And the lawyer was like, that's great, that's great. You don't have any money, so good luck. And he ended up getting a government loan, and that was, that was step one, and somehow he made it happen. And then the next step was that he had 4 people that he hired from the initial craft plant that shut down. That was his initial team. And the first thing they did, not knowing the first thing about running a yogurt business, was just to go paint the walls of this old craft plant that was totally dilapidated, and just putting one step in front of the other, and pursuing that fire that was there, and that he would refuse not to let die, is what has enabled him to create this business that now employs a lot of people and has changed countless lives, and frankly disrupted, I think, the way that we think about an entire food category. So because that just runs in our blood, and because we have someone who can serve as that source of inspiration, we're now trying to think of ways to amplify that and tell that story to more young people, not even young people, just to people all around the world, not even just the US. He's actually a member of a White House committee on entrepreneurship called Presidential Ambassadors for Global Entrepreneurship, and their goal is exactly that, to tell the story that entrepreneurship is an accessible career path that can lead you to a really, really great, fulfilled place, if that's the right path for you. So we're trying to figure out more specific initiatives where it's actually very early. We recently decided on these 2 focus areas. So hopefully in the coming year, we are going to be able to roll out some great programs that achieve that.
Great. Well, we are out of time, but I'm sure everyone here looks forward to hearing more about those efforts.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks.